What's going on, fellow gardeners? It is a beautiful Sunday here on the southeastern coast, and we've just been blessed with a refreshing spring shower. There is something truly magical about the way the garden breathes after the rain, especially when you see those vibrant green onion tops swaying in the breeze. However, as many of you know, growing onions can be one of the most rewarding yet frustrating experiences in the vegetable garden. Have you ever wondered why your onions often stay the size of golf balls, while others harvest bulbs that rival or even surpass the high-quality produce you see in gourmet supermarkets? Over the years, I have moved away from onion sets and transitioned entirely to seeds, experimenting with everything from planting density to nutrient timing. Today, I am thrilled to pull back the curtain on 3 specific techniques that have yielded monstrous results in my high-performance beds. Compared to my standard control groups, we are talking about the compounding power of companion planting, the precise shift in fertilization from leaf growth to bulb expansion, and the critical impact of consistent drip irrigation. Whether you are a seasoned pro or just starting your first backyard plot, these insights will fundamentally change how you approach your alliums this season. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this video from? And what time is it right now? Leave a comment below. I can't wait to see your answers. To achieve supermarket quality onions, or better yet, those massive, prize-winning bulbs, you must first understand that the foundation of success is laid long before the first sprout breaks the soil. One of the most significant shifts I have made in my gardening journey is moving away from onion sets and committing entirely to growing onions from seed. While onion sets small, dormant bulbs are often marketed to home gardeners for their convenience and head start. They come with inherent disadvantages. Sets are essentially second-year plants that have been forced into dormancy. Because of this, they are much more prone to bolting, the process where the plant prematurely sends up a flower stalk, which effectively ends the bulbing process and leaves you with a woody, inedible core. By starting from seed, you maintain full control over the plant's life cycle, ensuring it remains in its vegetative state for as long as possible to maximize bulb expansion. Furthermore, we must recognize the unique biological nature of the onion. Unlike tomatoes, peppers, or cucumbers, onions are not fruiting plants. In those crops, we provide nutrients to encourage flowers that eventually turn into fruit. An onion, however, is a modified leaf structure that serves as a nutrient storage vessel. The bulb. Every green leaf you see above ground corresponds to a layer of the onion bulb below. Therefore, the more healthy, robust leaves you can produce during the early stages of growth, the larger the eventual bulb will be. This is a fundamental rule of thumb in onion biology. Big tops lead to big bottoms. In my recent experiments, I utilized a control bed to test different planting densities, specifically comparing single plantings against clusters of doubles and triples. This was done using the yellow granax variety, a classic short-day onion that is particularly well suited for the latitudes of the southeast. What I discovered is that while onions are remarkably resilient and can grow in clusters, the highest performance the monster sizes comes from giving each plant its own dedicated space to breathe and expand without physical competition. When you grow from seed, you have the flexibility to choose specific varieties like the yellow granax that are perfectly adapted to your local climate's day length, providing a vigorous start that sets the stage for the advanced techniques we will discuss next. Understanding that you are cultivating a storage organ, not a fruit, changes your entire perspective on how to feed and water these plants for maximum return. One of the most striking revelations from my recent garden trials is the undeniable impact of companion planting. While many traditional gardeners prefer neat, uniform rows of a single crop, my high-performance bed proved that onions thrive when they are part of a diverse community. In this experiment, I interplanted the same yellow granax seedlings with my pepper plants, placing them in alternating rows. The result: the onions grown alongside the peppers were nearly double, if not triple, the size of the onions grown in the standalone control bed. This isn't just a coincidence. It is a prime example of how a simulated polyculture creates a more vigorous growing environment. The primary reason this partnership works so well lies beneath the surface in the architecture of the root systems. Onions possess a very shallow, fibrous root system that stays concentrated near the soil surface. In contrast, heavy-hitting plants like tomatoes and peppers, while having some surface roots, naturally drive their main root mass much deeper into the soil profile. Because they occupy different vertical niches in the soil, they aren't directly competing for the same space or resources. Instead of fighting over a narrow band of earth, they share the bed efficiently. allowing you to maximize every square inch of your garden real estate. Beyond the physical space, onions bring a secret weapon to the table: their chemistry. As members of the allium family, which includes garlic, leeks, and shallots, onions produce a distinct pungent odor and sulfur-based compounds that act as a natural pest repellent. Sensitive plants like peppers and tomatoes are often magnets for aphids, mites, and other pesky intruders. By interplanting onions, you create a natural aromatic shield that confuses and deters pests, leading to healthier companion plants. In return, the larger canopy of the peppers often provides a bit of much-needed shade for the soil, keeping the onion's shallow roots cooler during the intense midday sun. The dramatic size differential I observed in my garden is a testament to this synergy. The onions in the pepper bed weren't just doing well. They were monsters. They reached a level of development that the standalone onion simply couldn't match, despite being the same age and variety. This suggests that the biological interactions between different species can trigger growth responses that single crop beds cannot replicate. If you want to see runaway success in your onion patch, stop thinking in isolated rows and start thinking in integrated ecosystems. Fertilizing onions is a nuanced balancing act that requires a fundamental understanding of the plant's growth phases. Unlike many other garden staples, onions undergo a dramatic physiological shift during their life cycle, and your nutrient regimen must evolve accordingly. If you treat them the same way from planting to harvest, you are likely leaving a significant amount of bulb potential on the table. During the first phase of their life, onions essentially behave like a variety of grass. When you first transplant your seedlings, or when they first emerge from the soil, their primary goal is to establish a robust canopy of green blades. In this vegetative phase, nitrogen N is king. Nitrogen is the primary driver of leafy green growth, and as we established earlier, the size of the bulb is directly proportional to the number and health of the leaves. During this stage, I recommend a high nitrogen feed. Products like blood meal, or a water-soluble 24/8-16 fertilizer like Miracle Grow All-Purpose are excellent choices. They provide the immediate fuel the plant needs to push out those thick, dark green tops that will eventually power the bulbing process. However, the most critical mistake many gardeners make is maintaining this high nitrogen diet for too long. If you continue to blast your onions with nitrogen deep into the season, the plant will remain in leaf mode. It will continue to put all its energy into growing taller and thicker tops, essentially forgetting to store energy in the bulb. To get those massive, supermarket-quality onions, you must signal to the plant that it is time to switch gears. As the days begin to lengthen and the plant reaches a sufficient size, you need to back off the nitrogen significantly. This is where I transition to a balanced, slow-release organic fertilizer, such as a 5-5-5 blend. I prefer to apply a liberal amount of this organic fertilizer at the time of transplanting, because it takes weeks, if not months, to break down and become bioavailable. This ensures a steady, low-level stream of nutrients throughout the season. Once the grass phase is complete, I stop the high nitrogen liquid feeds and rely on a handful of 5-5-5 every 2 weeks. This restriction of nitrogen, combined with the presence of phosphorus P and potassium K, encourages the plant to stop focusing on foliage and start directing its carbohydrates downward. This creates a compounding effect where the plant realizes it can no longer grow upwards indefinitely and must begin the vital task of energy storage, resulting in the rapid expansion of the bulb. This strategic nutritional pivot is the secret behind those onions that seem to double in size almost overnight as they approach maturity. If there is one hidden variable that separated my decent onions from my truly spectacular ones this year, it was the implementation of a consistent drip irrigation system. Onions are often misunderstood when it comes to their water requirements, because they are somewhat drought tolerant. Many gardeners assume they can thrive on sporadic rainfall or occasional hand watering. However, there is a massive difference between a plant that is merely surviving and one that is optimizing. To reach their maximum potential, onions require a steady, uninterrupted supply of moisture. The reason for this lies in the onion's shallow root architecture. Unlike a tomato plant that can send a taproot deep into the subsoil to find moisture during a dry spell, an onion's roots are concentrated in the top few inches of the soil. This surface-dwelling nature means that the layer of soil they occupy is the first to dry out when the sun hits. If the soil becomes bone dry, the plant enters a stress response, halting bulb expansion to conserve energy. Even if you water it heavily the next day, the start-stop cycle of growth significantly reduces the final size of the harvest. In my high-performance bed, I installed professional-grade drip lines with emitters spaced every 12 inches. These lines were tucked neatly between the rows of peppers and onions, delivering water directly to the root zone with surgical precision. This setup ensured that the soil remained at a constant, optimal moisture level. Because the soil stayed consistently damp, but not waterlogged, it remained soft and pliable. This is a subtle but vital point. An onion bulb is physically expanding against the surrounding earth. In hard, dry, compacted soil, the bulb faces physical resistance. In moist, well-aerated soil provided by drip irrigation, the bulb can expand outward with much less effort. Comparing my two beds provided the ultimate proof. The standalone control bed, which relied on more traditional watering methods, produced healthy, supermarket standard onions. But the bed with the integrated drip line, where the onions were constantly sipping water alongside the peppers, produced the monsters. This constant hydration allowed the plants to maintain high turgor pressure and maximize photosynthesis every single day without a moment of drought stress. When you combine this consistent hydration with the specialized fertilization and companion planting we've discussed, you create a compounding success loop. The drip system doesn't just provide water. It acts as the delivery vehicle for nutrients and the primary regulator of the plant's growth pace. If you are serious about growing world-class onions, moving away from the garden hose and toward a dedicated drip system is perhaps the single best investment you can make. The most critical factor in onion success is photoperiodism. Unlike other vegetables, onions trigger bulb formation based on daylight hours rather than maturity. If you choose the wrong variety for your latitude, all your efforts in fertilizing and watering will be in vain. Onions fall into three categories: short day 10 to 12 hours of light, intermediate day 12 to 14 hours, and long day 14 to 16 hours. In the southeast, I grow short day varieties like yellow Grenex. If a northern gardener planted these, the bulbs would trigger too early while the plants are still small, resulting in tiny harvests. Always match the variety to your local latitude to ensure the plant has enough leaf mass before the bulbing signal begins. Ultimately, my monster onions are the result of compounding effects. The correct genetics, combined with companion planting, dual-phase fertilization, and consistent drip irrigation, create a synergy where the total growth far exceeds the sum of its parts. By aligning these techniques with the natural solar cycle, you ensure that when the longest days arrive, your onions are primed for maximum expansion. Success is a series of correct decisions working in harmony with nature. Growing giant, supermarket-defying onions isn't about luck or a single magic fertilizer. It is about understanding the synergy between plant biology and consistent technique. By choosing seeds over sets, leveraging the power of companion planting, masterfully timing your nutrient shifts, and ensuring steady hydration through drip irrigation, you create an environment where success is inevitable. Each of these factors compounds, turning a standard garden vegetable into a high-performance harvest that will be the envy of the neighborhood. I hope these insights inspire you to look at your onion patch with a more strategic eye this season. Don't be afraid to experiment with interplanting or to pivot your fertilization routine as the days grow longer. Gardening is a continuous journey of trial and discovery, and the rewards, like pulling a heavy, sun-ripened bulb from the soil, are truly worth the effort. If you found this guide helpful, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future deep dives into garden productivity. For a list of the specific tools and organic fertilizers I use to achieve these results, check out the links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy gardening.